Hello, hello, hello. This is the Madhat Cat, and for once our stream health is at green instead of red. It's madness. I am just doing a quick little test, a midday Madhat live stream, if you will. Testing out a couple of things on OBS. I'm checking my settings and things, and also we're testing out the Yeti mic that I just got. And also trying out the deliciously vamplicious, smoky voice that I've got going on right now. Not necessarily healthy, but interesting sounding to say the least. And I thought that why not take advantage of it? And we'll be beginning in about 4 minutes here. I just wanted to start up and let the live stream go. And if anyone wants to pop in and say hi, I would love to see it. And if you have any song requests, I'm not great at doing song requests, I'll admit, because most of what I know is older music, because I'm an old fogey. And maybe if we have a few people pop in, we can have a chat. And I also thought another way to take advantage of the smoky vamplicious voice was to maybe do a reading either from a one-act melodrama that I enjoy called Where the Cross is Made, or perhaps from one of my books, which is a collection of stories, and it's entitled Victorian Tales of Mystery and Detection. And I thought that this voice is perfect for that. So stick around. We'll be beginning in about 3 minutes. Sorry, 2 minutes, because it just turned to 13:58. That's 1:58 for those of you who are not on military time like myself. See you in a few. And it is now 1400 hours, and we shall begin again. I am just posting a quick link on my Instagram to the live stream to see if I can't get a few people to come out and play. Although I suppose I'm not really posting a link because one cannot post links on Instagram. They don't allow hyperlinking still, which is mildly irritating. And excuse my voice or enjoy my voice, whichever one is better. I'm a bit smoky after our live stream last night with Melancholy. Being over there in a house of smokers is interesting for me. I may have to figure out some way to take breaks in between and get some fresh air. I also think it has something to do with staying up a little bit too late. We didn't get started at 7:30. We had some hiccups. But I am just posting this to Instagram now. And then I think I will just start with a song and have a few words and read a few words from Where the Cross is Made. All right, all posted on Instagram. Very good. Now, the instrument that I have with me right now is my concert ukulele. I haven't given this one a name yet. Most of my all of my ukuleles have names. I have one soprano, one banjolele, which is also concert size. I have a tenor ukulele, which unfortunately is out of commission because the bridge is coming up from the body of the uke, and so the strings are pulling too tightly on it, and so I'm going to have to get that repaired. And then I also, it's not mine technically, but it does live in my house, and so I play it frequently. The little soprano ukulele of my partner, I call that one Ike. And my usual soprano, the baby blue one that you'll often see me with, her name is Lulu. But this concert one, which is acoustic electric, which means it has a port for a pickup in the bottom of the body so that I can electrify it. This one does not have a name yet. It's a Luna ukulele and has some lovely mother of pearl detail in the bridge. Or sorry, not the bridge, in the neck, along the frets. Some lovely wave-looking details that are just delightful. And it seems like it would be lazy of me to just call her Luna. But I love her very much. And she will have a name someday, whatever her name is. Let's have a song then. I'll go out walking after midnight, out in the moonlight, just like we used to do. I'll go out walking after midnight, searching for you. I'll walk for miles along the highway. Well, that's just my way of saying I love you. I go out walking after midnight, searching for you. I walk for miles along the highway. Well, that's just my way of saying I love you. I go out walking after midnight, searching for you. Oh, I start to see a weeping willow crying on his pillow. Maybe he's crying for me. Oh, and as the skies turn gloomy, the night winds whisper to me, I'm as lonesome as I can be. Oh, I go out walking after midnight, out in the starlight, just hoping you may be somewhere a-walking after midnight, searching for me. Strange how much my voice cracked on that. I even tuned down about a whole step after the first tune down. Hey there, Nox King. I believe I ran into you over on Molly's live stream just a minute ago. The song I just played was a Patsy Cline song that I really love called Walking After Midnight. How's it going, King? How are you today? Now, my stream health has gone from a green light to a red light, and it says that my keyframe frequency is not acceptable. Hopefully this isn't buffering like mad, and hopefully there isn't a huge delay. But as you're the other one, you're the only other one in here, and so you can give me some feedback, and I would love to hear it. Well, I'm glad you're doing well. Very good. That makes me happy to hear. I also keep forgetting it's Friday. Do you have weekend plans for yourself? I'm going to mute the mic a sec while I cough, sorry. Gracious. Gracious goodness dearie me. I thought I might try one more song that I think could be in my range while my voice is as smoky as it is. I don't know if you've ever seen The Jerk with Steve Martin and Bernadette Peters. Delightful film. Very, very funny. There's also a dog called Shithead, and that's probably my favorite part of the whole thing. That's a lie. This song is maybe my favorite part of the whole thing. It was one of the first songs I learned to play on the ukulele, actually. Oh, you're already having your weekend. So if you're in Iraq, let's see, how many hours ahead? You're more than 6. Is it 8 hours ahead? I'm just going to tune up here. Just a little bit. Let you hear it very well. Your wish is my command. I know you belong to somebody new, but tonight you belong to me. Although you're a part of my heart, and tonight you belong to me. Way down by the stream, how sweet it would seem once more just to dream in the moonlight. My honey, and though I know with the dawn that you will be gone, and tonight you belong to me, just a little old me. I normally would take a pause there and actually go through a whole nother bridge there making trumpet noises, because that's one of the best parts of the song, is when Bernadette just very slowly, awkwardly pulls up that trumpet and starts brr, brr. But with the way my voice is right now, my trumpet noises are not very good. And I'm not sure why that is, but this is interesting to find out for me. My voice is probably the largest asset that I have as a performer, doing impressions and making sound effects. Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say. Even despite my voice, actually, I was thinking last night already, the best thing about this, the way my voice is right now, I may not be able to sing the things that I normally sing, but I do a much better impression of Lauren Bacall, who was, she played Margot in, oh dear me, have I forgotten the name of, oh dear, no, what was it from? Welcome to the Theater. It's from Applause, I think. Yes, but Lauren Bacall just had this wonderful, smoky, ridiculous voice, and just brilliant. And she has, you know, such grit that she sings it with. But I actually think I might try to sing that a cappella just now. Yes, so old taillight. Yes, Lauren Bacall. I love that you love her. Do you know Welcome to the Theater then? That was one of the first songs an old director of mine gave us all a soundtrack that he mixed together. And Welcome to the Theater was the first track on that CD. And I still have it somewhere, but it describes the world of theater so perfectly in so many ways, because and throughout the whole song, she's all at once very sardonic and caustic, because, you know, people are getting in her way and trying to show her up. But at the same time, she recognizes that she's completely addicted to the theater. Hello from Morocco. We've got Morocco and Iraq. Yes, you can suggest a song. I can't guarantee that I will know it, but until then, maybe I'll hold off on Welcome to the Theater. I'll wait and see what your suggestion is. I can tell you that if I don't know it, I will certainly try to learn it, if the tablature is not too super duper crazy. The Will to Death by John Frusciante. Copying and pasting into my Google search bar. I don't know it. Is it from a show? Let's see. The Will to Death. 5th studio album by John Frusciante. Pardon me if I'm butchering his surname. Well, it reached... I'm sure I can get away with playing, like... We'll see. I'll play less than 20 seconds, and I'm sure then I won't get in trouble. You have to be careful with copyright infringement. It has a good major rhythm riff to it. I'm sure that I actually have heard this song before. I'll keep that open and look over it a little bit later. And the next time I do... that's not the song? I misremembered it. Well, too bad, because I'm going to go and look and try to learn it anyway. Thank you, both King and Mohammed, for joining for a minute. I know how King found his way here. Mohammed, I'm curious how you found your way here. I don't know if you were over in Melancholy's chat, and that's how you found your way here, or if this was just kind of a random thing you stumbled upon. I was talking about the dying song. The dying song. I don't know. Is it just called The Dying Song? John. It sounds like it could be. Oh, it's just called Dying. All right. Oh, I love the harmonizing on that. It definitely sounds like something that could be easily translatable to uke, which is always tricky when I'm trying to do covers of things. Like I want to do covers of like heavy metal songs, but finding equitable tablature for that is interesting, and sometimes it just takes me a while. I would keep it going, but because it's someone else's music, I'm afraid that something bad will happen if I play more than 20 seconds. Yes, exactly, King. Have to be careful of copyright. I have my own thoughts and ideas about copyright laws. I don't know if either of you are familiar with a woman called Nina Paley, but, oh, what is her channel called? I think it's something like Copying is Not Copyright or something like that. Nina Paley, YouTube. She made this wonderful animated film called Sita Sings the Blues, and it's one of my favorite things. It was actually the piece that I did my senior thesis on. Let's see, I'm pretty sure I'm subscribed to that channel. What is it called? Question Copyright. That's what it's called. Question Copyright. I'm actually going to put a link for that and see if that works in the chat. And it's basically, it's not the idea that fuck the copyright, you don't have 30 million subscribers. You're right. And I'm also not in direct competition for his same audience. Not at all. There's the link that I just put in there is for Question Copyright. If you ever have a moment, go and just check out some of the stuff on there. She's a really interesting cartoonist and animator, and she did a TED talk, actually, well, a TEDx talk, and talking about copyright and how it hinders creativity and unnecessary and it can hinder creativity and the exchange of information. And it doesn't necessarily protect artists. Rather, it just enriches the company that owns the copyright, which is unfortunate. And I think something that is definitely worth talking about and having a discussion. And that is something that you'll find quite frequently if you ever pop into any of Molly's videos or my videos or podcasts, I suppose. That I'm always wanting to have a conversation about stuff, even if it's difficult to talk about, or if it's not necessarily a popular opinion. I want to have conversations with people. That's kind of my life's work. That the thesis that I was talking about earlier, that was based on Nina Paley's movie Sita Sings the Blues. That was kind of the whole point of the project, was to expose people to a different culture, a different story. And when I say people, I mean people in my town who are, for the most part, white Midwesterners. And we're very kind people here, a very hospitable people, but we don't always get exposed to so much. I've been really lucky all throughout my life to from the moment I was born, I was surrounded by people of other ethnic backgrounds, other religions, other countries of origin, other languages. And so that has just always been something that's very important to me. And it's just kind of become the thing that I want to do with my life, is to share that with other people and try and impart that what's the word I'm looking for here? That attitude of being willing to listen to other people and to learn new things. I know we all only have so much memory and so much headspace to dedicate to things. I literally clinically have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and so I have nothing but headspace. And even though it's not always necessarily the most healthy thing for me, I can have the energy to think on things and talk about things for a very, very, very long time. I can't. Oh, I know what I was going to do. I was going, since I looked up those other two songs, those John Frusciante, I'm going to look up how to pronounce his name after this, because I would like to know. I hate mispronouncing people's names. It's an affront to their very selves, and people are always misspelling my given first name. So it's just irritating. And I don't blame them, because I know that they're used to one way, but the polite thing to do is ask, and how do you spell your name? And when I meet people for the first time, even if they tell me their first name is Ben, I say, very good, and how do you spell that? Because if they don't tell me, then I won't have a concrete memory of them telling me their name. So it's a lot easier for me if I have a conversation with someone about their name. Real quick, I just want to do Welcome to the Theater, and it's just going to be a cappella, nothing special. I don't know that there is a karaoke track anywhere to that. Actually, I may just for funsies take a quick look. King, I believe you're still there. Can you hear my my clicking and my keyboard tapping? I know this mic is very sensitive. It picks up quite a bit. Welcome to the theater. Karaoke. No, I don't think that such a thing exists. That's too bad, but it's okay, because I love doing things a cappella. Ibrahim, good to meet you then officially with an actual name and such, Ibrahim. And tell me if I'm mispronouncing that. Feel free to phonetically type it out if I am mispronouncing. But it's not so loud. Okay, good. So just light little ambient clicks and taps. All right, so I'll just quickly do Welcome to the Theater, and then I think maybe I will, and you can pick, since you're the only one in here right now, Ibrahim, you can pick whether I should read from where the cross is made. Yeah, Where the Cross is Made. It's a play by Eugene O'Neill. If I should read a small selection from that, or whether I should read from Victorian Tales of Mystery and Detection. Good. I'm glad I pronounced it properly. Fantastic. All right, so those are your two choices. Where the Cross is Made by Eugene O'Neill, or a little snippet from Victorian Tales of Mystery and Detection. I could probably also find something from Edgar Allan Poe, which would be a good practice run for next week, where Melancholy and I will be reading some of our favorite scary stories on her channel. And that's going to be definitely exciting. All right, mystery and detection it is. That means that I get to put on the fancy English dialect, probably more northern than southern. Ibrahim, just curious, are you native to Iraq, or are you from elsewhere? I will go fetch that book while I am waiting for your answer. Yes, Victorian Tales of Mystery and Detection, an Oxford anthology. No. I actually don't mind if you hear the pages turning. I think that is kind of nice for the experience. Ew, actually, there are a few Edgar Allan Poe stories in here. And a few Arthur Conan Doyle. And some Whitechurch and Boothby and Bodkin. I don't know M. McDonald Bodkin, but I love his name. Or her name. Born in America, moved to Iraq. Parents are both Arabic. Migrated to the United States in the 90s. One of my very good family friends, and the woman on the I'm the child of a Marine officer, and when I was still living in the desert, yes, Telltale Heart. Oh, it is such a classic, and it is for a reason. The wife of one of my father's fellow officers on the base, she took care of me during the day because he was on base and my mother was an ER nurse. And so I have, and again, this is just one more reason that I've been so very lucky in my life to have been, or to have experience with people from other countries and other languages. And I actually used to speak, it would have been an Egyptian dialect of Arabic fairly well when I was very small. Unfortunately, now all I remember is are negative phrases. Things like "get out," "shut up," "go away." And that's because most of her kids, that's what I remember, because I used to visit them every year. And then you know how it is, everybody gets older, everybody starts having children, except for me, and that's okay. And life just gets very busy, and so I don't get to see them every year anymore. But when I was seeing them every year, all of the kids would, be yelling at each other, "Yamshi, Etla, Bass," because they'd be hitting all on them. Oh no, I miss them all the time. My Mira and Nura and Mahmoud and Nabil and we call her Nanny because she went to nanny school, and that was like her job back in Egypt. She worked in the American ambassador's office, but her name is Nagat, and she is just such a feisty, wonderful woman. And every time I cannot waste food, because if I I can't finish this, or, no, I let this go bad in the refrigerator, and what will I do with it? Then I hear Nanny's voice in the back of my head saying, "You cannot waste food, as it is sin against Allah." And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, Nanny. I won't do it again. And then she'd hug you very tightly and say, "You only know that I yell at you because I love you." She's a wonderful woman. Your sister name is Noor. All right. I think I will quickly do that welcome to the theater, and then have a quick read from one of the stories of Victorian Tales of Mystery and Detection. And hopefully my voice doesn't crack so hard that it breaks your head open. So just to set the stage a little bit, you have a younger actress on, I believe it's a partially dressed stage. So, there was probably a show earlier in the evening, and now they're alone at night, and everybody's gone home except these two. And Margot, I believe, is Lauren Bacall's character. And she is just gritting her teeth, and I hate to use the phrase cat fight, but it's cat fight just about to begin. Like the cloths are being unsheathed, and she actually uses that phrase in the song. So she has this, no, if you handle yourself as half as well as you do off the stage, or on the stage as you do off the stage, My dear, you are in the right place. Welcome to the theater, to the magic, to the fun, where painted trees and flowers grow and laughter rings fortissimo and treachery's neatly done. Now you've entered the asylum, this profession unique. Actors are children playing hide and ego seek. So welcome, Miss Eve Harrington, to this business we call show. You're on your way to wealth and fame. Unsheathe your claws, enjoy the game. You'll be a bitch, but they'll know your name from New York to Kokomo. So welcome to the theater, my dear. You'll love it so. And then you've got to think of that bum, 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 bum. Welcome to the dirty concrete hallways. Welcome to the friendly roaches, too. Welcome to the pinches from the stagehands. It's the only quiet thing they do. Welcome to the Philadelphia critics. Welcome, Librium and Nebutal. Welcome to a life of laryngitis. Welcome to dark toilets in the hall. Welcome to the flop you thought would run for years. Welcome to a world of fears and cheers and tears. So welcome to the theater. With some luck, you'll be a pro. You'll work and slave and scratch and bite. You'll learn to kill with sheer delight. You'll only come alive at night when you're in a show. So welcome to the theater, you fool. You'll love it so. Oh, yes, this is the only good thing about this voice, is that I do a Lauren Bacall so much better than I could normally do. Oh, but it's so harsh on the voice. I don't know if you've ever seen The Lion King 2, the sequel that came after, and it's about Simba's daughter and this kind of rival clan of lions that were still like loyalists to Scar, and they've been exiled to the outlands. And I believe her name is Suzanne Plachette. She has a similar smoky, evil kind of voice. And I've been singing this song called My Lullaby from that movie, and it's where she's, basically like casting her wicked spell over Scar's heir apparent, and she's saying, I'm gonna get my revenge. And I've been singing that all day long just because it sounds so wicked coming out of my mouth. And the poor little lion cub, he's saying, but I don't want to fight and be a big bad lion. Hush, hush, my little one. You must be exhausted. Sleep, my little Kovu. Let your dreams take wing. One day when you're big and strong, you will be a king. And there's lovely, like, boom, 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 drums of war kind of sounding. And she has this, just like wicked rant. Have I ever auditioned for the theater? I'm actually an actor and have been for most of my life. I've been out of it for a little bit because I've been finishing up my degree, which is in theater. It's a Bachelor of Fine Arts, specifically in performance. And I haven't been in any shows recently, and I haven't produced any of my own shows because I've been working very mightily on my thesis project, which is the Sita Sings the Blues stage adaptation. But being on stage is what I live for, or at the very least, doing staged readings in my friend's living room. I have a friend, Eric, who does that on a semi-regular basis. He'll invite a bunch of people from the local theater community to come over, and he'll have a number of plays ready for us, and he'll usually do the casting, and even if you've never read the script before, it's just so much fun to see that magic happen live with pretty much no preparation. And that's actually one of my favorite things to do, is to just pick up a script. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea who these characters are. Let's find out in the moment. Okay. But playing villains, I used to get typecast as kind of the girl next door all the time when I was younger, because I just had that nice sweet face and I had knee-length hair. But then, let's see, what was it that did it? There were two things. I was in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and I played Sally Brown, Charlie Brown's little sister, and I was just a jerk. I was a huge, enormous, arrogant, swaggering jerk, for a 5-year-old little child. And then I was also in Pippin, where I was amongst the cast of, they just call them the players, as in kind of a traveling theater troupe. But then I also doubled as Pippin's grandmother, who is this old, like, full of piss and vinegar woman who, is all about food and sexual pleasure out in the countryside. Her name is Bertha. And I love playing old ladies. And especially right now with this voice, I feel like I could play a few old ladies. After I finish my degree, it will be all official said and done in May. Heaven willing. And after that, I absolutely am going to put together a new show. A lot of what I produce on my own is vaudeville, cabaret, burlesque type of shows. I'm a big fan of vaudevillian variety and cabaret, which is just it's variety, but mostly in song kind of thing. All right. You said Victorian tales of mystery and detection. Let us read something of that, and then I think I am going to sign off, because this has been, I think, a successful enough test that I can stop it and listen back to it and make some plans for the future. Let's see. The Purloined Letter from Edgar Allan Poe. The Great Ruby Robbery. Let's see. I'm going to try and find a shorter one if I can. There's one that's 9 pages. I don't want to read something that's obscenely long. I think that one would be a good choice because it's less than 10 pages. Oh, no. Oh, no, that's just the sources. All right, so the one that we will do is The Sapient Monkey by Heaton Hill, page 233. Going to mute again so that I might cough. Yes, and now my favorite part of the day, where I get to adopt an English dialect. From Michael Cox's Victorian Tales of Mystery and Detection, The Sapient Monkey by Heaton Hill. I would advise every person whose duties take him into the field of private inquiry to go steadily through the daily papers the first thing every morning. Personally, I have found the practice most useful, for there are not many causes célèbres in which my services are not enlisted on one side or the other, and by this method I am always up in my main facts before I am summoned to assist. When I read the account of the proceedings at Bow Street against Franklin Gale in connection with the Tudways bank robbery, I remember thinking that, on the face of it, there never was a clearer case against a misguided young man. Condensed for the sake of brevity, the police court report disclosed the following state of things. Turn off the lights. Oh yes, this is a good tale to go to bed to. I'll repeat that last bit again. Condensed for the sake of brevity, the police court report disclosed the following state of things. Franklin Gale, clerk, aged 23, in the employment of Messrs. Tudways, the well-known private bankers of the Strand, was brought up on a warrant charged with stealing the sum of £500, being the moneys of his employers. Mr. James Spruce, assistant cashier at the bank, gave evidence to the effect that he had missed the money from his till on the afternoon of July 22nd. On making up his cash for the day, he discovered that he was short £300 worth of notes and £200 of gold. He had no idea how the amount had been abstracted. The prisoner was an assistant bookkeeper at the bank and had access behind the counter. Detective Sergeant Simmons said the case had been placed in his hands for the purpose of tracing the stolen notes. He had ascertained that one of them, of the value of £5, had been paid to Messrs. Crotwaith and Co., tailors of New York Bond Street, and on July 27th by Franklin Gale. As a result, he had applied for a warrant and had arrested the prisoner. The latter was remanded for a week, and at the end of which period it was expected that further evidence would be forthcoming. I had hardly finished reading the report when a telegram was put into my hands demanding my immediate presence at Rosemount, Twickenham. From the address given, and from the name of Gale appended to the dispatch, I concluded that the affair at Tudway's Bank was the cause of the summons. I had little doubt that I was to be retained in the interests of the prisoner, and my surmise proved correct. Rosemount was by no means the usual kind of abode from which the ordinary run of bank clerks come gaily trooping into the great city in shoals by the early trains. There was nothing of cheap gentility about the pleasant suburban residence standing in its own grounds of an acre, as the house agent would say, with its lawns sloping down to the river, shaded by mulberry and chestnut trees, and plentifully garnished with the noble flower which gave it half its name. Rosemount was assuredly the home either of some prosperous merchant or of a private gentleman, and when I crossed its threshold I did so quite prepared for the fuller enlightenment which was to follow. Mr. Franklin Gale was evidently not one of the struggling genius bank clerk, but must be the son of well-to-do people, and yet not yet flown from the parents' nest. When I left my office, I had thought that I was bound on a forlorn hope, but at the sight of Rosemount, my first real touch of the case, my spirits revived. Why should a young man living among such signs of wealth want to rob his employers? Of course, I recognized that the youth of the prisoner precluded the probability of the place being his own. Had he been older, I should have reversed the argument. Rosemount, in the actual occupation of a middle-aged bank clerk, would have been prima facie evidence of a tendency to outrun the constable. I was shown into a well-appointed library, where I was received by a tall, silver-haired old gentleman of ruddy complexion who had apparently been pacing the floor in a state of agitation. His warm greetings towards me, a perfect stranger, had the air of one who clutches at a straw. "I have sent for you to prove my son's innocent, Mr. Zambra," he said. "Franklin no more stole that money than I did. In the first place, he didn't want it. And secondly, if he had been ever so pushed for cash, he would rather have cut off his right hand than put it into his employer's till. Besides, if these thick-headed policemen were bound to lock one of us up, it ought to have been me. The £5 note in which Franklin paid his tailor was one, so he assures me, and I believe him, which I gave him myself." "Perhaps you would give me the facts in detail," I replied. "As to the robbery, both my son and I are very much in the dark, as old Tudway himself," Mr. Gale proceeded. "Franklin tells me that Spruce, the cashier, is accredited to be a most careful man, and the very last to leave his till to take care of itself. The facts that came out in evidence are perfectly true. Franklin's desk is close to the counter, and the note identified as one of the missing ones was certainly paid by him to the Crotwaith & Co. of New Bond Street a few days after the robbery. It bears his endorsement, so there can be no doubt about that. So much for their side of the case. Ours is, I must confess, from a legal point of view, much weaker, and lies in my son's assertion of his innocence, coupled with the knowledge of myself and his mother and his sisters that he is incapable of such a crime. Franklin insists that the note he paid to Crosswaith & Co., the tailors, was one that I gave him on the morning of the 22nd. I remember perfectly well giving him a £5 note at breakfast on that day, just before he left for town, so that he must have had it several hours before the robbery was committed. Franklin says that he had no other banknotes between the 22nd and 27th, and that he cannot, therefore, be mistaken. The note which I gave him I got fresh from one of my own bankers a day or two before, together with some others, and here is the most unfortunate point in the case. The solicitor whom I have engaged to defend Franklin has made the necessary inquiries at my bankers and finds that the note paid to the tailors is not one of those which I drew from the bank. Did not your son take notice of the number of the note you gave him? I asked. Unfortunately, no. He is too much worried about the numbers of notes at his business, he says, to note those which are his own property. He simply sticks to it that he knows it must be the same note, he had no other. In the slang of the day, Mr. Franklin Gale's story seemed a little too thin. There was evidence of Tudway's that the note paid to the tailor was one of these stolen from them, and there was evidence of Mr. Gale, Sr.'s, bankers, that it was not one of those handed to their client. What was the use of the prisoner protesting in the face of this that he had paid his tailor with his father's present? The notes stolen from Tudway's were, I remember reading, consecutive ones of a series, so that the possibility of young Gale having at the bank changed his father's gift for another note, which was subsequently stolen, was knocked on the head. Besides, he maintained that it was the same note. I should like to know something of your son's circumstances and position, I said, trying to divest the question of any air of suspicion it might have implied. I'm glad you asked me that, returned Mr. Gale, for it touches the very essence of the whole case. My son's circumstances and position are such that were he the most unprincipled scoundrel in creation, he would have been nothing less than an idiot to have done this thing. Franklin is not on the footing of an ordinary blank clerk, Mr. Zambra. I am a rich man, and can afford to give him anything in reason, though he is too good a lad ever to have taken advantage of me. Tudway is an old friend of mine, and I got him to take Franklin into the bank with a view to a partnership. Everything was going on swimmingly towards that end. The boy had perfected himself in his duties and made himself valuable. I was prepared to invest a certain amount of capital on his behalf. And lastly, Tudley, who lives next door to me here, got so fond of him that he allowed Franklin to become engaged to his daughter Maud. Would any young man in his senses go and steal a paltry £500 under such circumstances as that? I thought not, but I did not say so yet. What are Mr. Tudway's views about the robbery? I asked. Tudway is an old fool, replied Mr. Gale. He believes that the police tell him, and the police tell him that Franklin is guilty. I have no patience with him. I ordered him out of this house last night. He had the audacity to come and offer not to press the charge if the boy would confess. And Miss Tudway? Ah, she's a brick. Maud sticks to him like a true woman. But what is the use of our sticking to him against such evidence? Broke down poor Mr. Gale impotently. Can you, Mr. Zambra, give us a crumb of hope? Before I could reply, there was a knock at the library door, and a tall, graceful girl entered the room. Her face bore traces of weeping, and she looked anxious and dejected. But I could see that she was naturally quick and intelligent. I have just run over to see if there is any fresh news this morning, she said with an inquiring glance to me. This is Mr. Zambra, my dear, come to help us, said Mr. Gale. And this, he continued, turning to me, is Miss Maud Tudway. We are all enlisted in the same cause. You will be able to prove Mr. Franklin Gale's innocence, sir, she exclaimed. I hope so, I said, and the best way to do it will be to trace the robbery to its real author. Has Mr. Franklin any suspicions on that head? He is as much puzzled as we are, said Miss Tudway. I went with Mr. Gale here to see him in that horrible place yesterday, and he said there was absolutely no one in the bank he cared to suspect. But he must get off the next time he appears. My evidence ought to do that. I saw with my own eyes that he had only one £5 note in his purse on the 25th. That is 2 days before he paid the tailor and 3 days after the robbery. I'm afraid that won't help us much, I said. You see, he might have easily have had the missing notes elsewhere. But tell me, under what circumstances did you see the £5 note? There was a garden party at our house, replied Miss Tudway, and Franklin was there. During the afternoon, a man came to the gate with an accordion and a performing monkey, and asked permission to show the monkey's tricks. We had the man in, and after the monkey had done a lot of clever things, the man said the animal could tell a good banknote from a flash one. He was provided with spurious notes for the purpose. Would any gentleman lend him a good note for a minute, just to show the trick? The man was quite close to Franklin, who was sitting next to me. Franklin, seeing the man's hand held out towards him, took out his purse and handed him a note, at the same time calling my attention to the fact that it was his only one, and laughingly saying that he hoped the man was honest. The sham note and the good one were placed before the monkey, who at once tore up the bad note and handed the good one back to Franklin. This is more important than it seems, I said, after a moment's review of the whole case. I must find that man with the monkey, but it bids fair to be difficult. There are so many of them in that line of business. Miss Tudway smiled for the first time during the interview. It is possible that I may be of use to you there, she said. I go in for amateur photography, and I thought that the man and his monkey made so good a subject that I insisted on taking him before he left. Shall I fetch the photograph? By all means, I said. Photography is one of the greatest use to me in my work. I generally arrange it myself, but if you have chanced to take the right picture for me in this case, so much the better. Miss Tudway hurried across to her father's house and quickly returned with the photograph. It was a fair effort for an amateur, and portrayed an individual of the usual seedy stamp, equipped with a huge accordion and a small monkey secured by a string. With this in my hand, it would only be a matter of time before I found the itinerant juggler who had presented himself at the Tudways' garden party, and I took my leave of old Mr. Gale and Miss Maud in a much more hopeful frame of mind. Every circumstance outside the terrible array of actual evidence pointed to my client's innocence, and if this evidence had been manufactured for the purpose, I felt certain that the monkey man had a hand in it. On arriving at my office, I summoned one of my assistants, a veteran of doubtful antecedents, who owns to no other name than Old Jemmy. Old Jemmy's particular line of business is a thorough knowledge of the slums and the folk who dwell there, and I knew after an hour or two on Saffron Hill my ferret, armed with the photograph, would bring me the information I wanted. Towards the evening, old Jemmy came in with his report to the effect that the party I was after was to be found in the top attic of 7 Little Didman's Fields, Hatton Garden, just recovering from the effects of a prolonged spree. He's been drunk for 3 or 4 days, the landlord told me, old Jemmy said. Had a struck of loke, it seems. But he is expected to go on tramp tomorrow, now his coin is given out. His name is Pietro Silizzi. I knew I was on the right scent now, and that the monkey man had been made the instrument of changing the note which Franklin Gale had lent him for one of the stolen notes. A quick cab took me to the Little Didman's Fields in 1/4 of an hour, and I was soon standing inside the doorway of a pestilential apartment on the top floor of number 7, which had been pointed out to me as the abode of Pietro Silizzi. A succession of snores from a heap of rags in a corner told me the whereabouts of the occupier. I went over, and, shaking him roughly by the shoulder, said in Italian, Pietro, I want you to tell me about that little juggle with a banknote at Twickenham the other day. You will be well rewarded. The fellow rubbed his eyes, half drunk in astonishment, but there certainly was no guilty fear about him as he replied, Certainly, signor, anything for money. There was nothing wrong about the note, was there? Anyhow, I acted innocently in the matter. No one finds you at fault, I said, but see, here is a £5 note. It shall be yours if you tell me exactly what happened. I was with my monkey up at Highgate the other evening," Mr. Schlitzie began, "and was showing Jacko's trick of telling a good note from a bad one. It was a small house in the Napier Road. After I had finished, the gentleman took me into a public house and told me a drink. He wanted me to do something for him, he said. He had a young friend who was careless and never took the number of notes, and he wanted to teach him a lesson. He had a bet about the number of a note, he said. Would I go down to Twickenham next day to a house he described, where there was to be a party, and do my trick with the monkey? I was to borrow a note from the young gentleman, and then instead of giving him back his own note after the performance, I was to substitute one which the Highgate gentleman gave me for the purpose. He met me at Twickenham next day, and came behind the garden wall to point out the young gentleman to me. I managed it just as the Highgate gentleman wanted, and he gave me a couple of pounds for my pains. I have done no wrong. The note I gave back was a good one. Yes, I said, but it happens to have been stolen. Put on your hat and show me where this man lives in Highgate. The Napier Road was a shabby street of dingy houses, with a public house on the corner. Pietro stopped about halfway down the row and pointed out number 21. That is where the gentleman lives, he said. We retraced our steps to the corner public house. Can you tell me who lives at number 21? I asked of the landlord, who happened to be in the bar. Certainly, was the answer. It is Mr. James Spruce, a good customer of mine and the best billiard player hereabouts. He is a cashier at Mrs. Tudway Bank in the Strand, I believe. It all came out at trial, not of Franklin Gale, but of James Spruce, the fraudulent cashier. Spruce had himself abstracted the notes and gold entrusted to him, and his guilty conscience telling him that he might be suspected, he had cast about for a means of throwing suspicion on some other person. Chancing to witness the performance of Pietro's monkey, he had grasped the opportunity for foisting one of the stolen notes on Franklin Gale, knowing that sooner or later it would be traced to him. The other notes he had intended to hold over till it was safe to send them out of the country. But the gold was the principal object of his theft. Mr. Tudway, the banker, was, I hear, so cut up about the false accusation that he made against his favourite that he insisted on Franklin joining him as a partner at once, and the marriage is to take place before very long. I am told that the photograph of the monkey man, handsomely enlarged and mounted, will form one of the mural decorations of the young couple. The end. Yes, scandal indeed. Dear me, Mr. Spruce, what were you thinking? That had kind of an anticlimactic end, but it reminded me of a time I was driving up to Minnesota and I stopped late at night, probably about 2 or 3 a.m. In a gas station, and I accidentally left my wallet there. And I didn't realize it until the next morning. I got a call from my father telling me that the gas station had called the number that was in the wallet, which was at the time my parents' number, because I never changed that sort of thing. No, cat, be careful. That what was I to do? I was young and foolish. He said, why did you leave your wallet? Well, gosh, I don't know. So I called the gas station and I asked them, well, is my money still in it? Because I had taken, I back then, I didn't really have any kind of ATM or debit card that I used. I just carried cash. A fool I was, never again. The person on the phone told me they weren't allowed to look in the wallet. Or at least rummage through it. And all they could do was look at the information card. And so I drove from Minnesota all the way back to Iowa. I think it was about a 2-hour drive. And the whole way I put on musical theater soundtracks and just sung the whole way because I was so afraid that I was going to be penniless and stuck in Minnesota. And I got there, and yes, there was my wallet, and I opened it up. Everything gone. not a bill left. Everything gone. I was penniless. And luckily, I had enough gas to make it back to Minnesota, where I was. And my plan was to just kind of, do some handiwork or mow somebody's lawn or something, and basically just depend upon the kindness of strangers in this little Minnesotan town. And luckily, I back then I was on DeviantArt. And I actually had a few people help me out, which was very kind of them. Other than that, the trip was a good trip. I was helping somebody with a children's traveling theater company, and that was a lot of fun. I'm going to mute one moment. Pardon me. But yes, so I was able to get back home. I left Minnesota, and I forgot about the whole thing. And this is probably one of the more amazing things to happen to me. It was maybe 6 months later. It was so much later, I had forgotten completely about it. I knew I was never going to get that money back. I was staying with my parents at the time, and again, it was the same kind of thing. It was early in the morning, and I hear, I was staying in the basement at my folks' house, and I hear the door open up, and toom, 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 down the stairs. And my father opens up the door to the bedroom, and he says, "Why is the Iowa FBI calling here asking for you?" And I just had no idea what to say because I didn't know. I'm like, I don't know why the Iowa FBI would be calling to talk to me. I didn't do anything. And I'm sure my father regretted it later and, felt bad for accusing me when there was utterly no evidence whatsoever. But I picked up the phone from him, or he gave me the phone where they were waiting on the line, and I just kind of, awkwardly, "Hello, this is Catherine." And apparently the gas station that I had stopped at was right across from a small casino, and the casino owned the gas station. And so there were security cameras everywhere in that gas station. And as the FBI agent informed me, the day manager at the gas station had reported this wallet was found, and the person claims that there was, God, I want to say it was like $500. It was a lot of money, and I know, stupid to be carrying that much cash. I learned my lesson, never again. And eventually the casino got wind of this report and got the FBI involved, because they're a casino and they take their security very, very seriously. And what they had found was that the night manager, who was there when I had stopped at 2, 3 in the morning, whatever it was, had found the wallet in the bathroom, had taken the wallet with her to one of the back rooms probably, had taken the money out of it, and then put the wallet in the lost and found. And I don't know how quickly they caught her, but apparently she when they confronted her about it, she immediately confessed, because she the evidence is too strong against you with video. And she said, "I haven't spent any of it yet. Here, take it." So I don't know how quickly this happened, and maybe it wasn't until months later, but she had been hanging on to it and maybe felt a little guilty. I don't know. But so they told me all that, and I'm just flabbergasted, being silent the whole time. And at the end of the conversation, the agent said, "So, yes, we've taken care of that. And where is an address that we can send you a check for the money that she stole?" And yes, that's just where I was going. I did get the money back. They sent me a check for the money that she had stolen from me. Every last bit of it. It was completely, absolutely unusual. in every sense of the word. Like that's very unusual. Now I've never had anything like that quite happen again. I'm going to mute really quickly, and I'll be right back. Pardon my minute absence there. I got a call from my partner saying, so do you want to do sushi in a movie tonight? There's a new sushi place in one of the hip neighborhoods here that's run by the same people who own this little ramen place that I really, really love. Do you like ramen, Ibrahim? I don't know if you've ever had it. It's one of my favorite foods. They also have a lot of really delicious little tasting plates. Japanese cuisine is one of my favorite things in the world. Yes, I think we will go out this evening. And I'm not sure what movie we're seeing, but I'm not going to worry about it. Oh, you love ramen. Fantastic. Ramen buds forever. I don't know if you have a favorite sort. I'm a terrible vegan, partially because I love Japanese food, because fish sauce is in everything, and all of their stocks for the most part are made from fish or from animals. Vegetable broth is much more a rural thing. Although I do love a good like mountain vegetable soup. Very delicious. I think we are going to wrap it up. This has been very, very fun. Professor Martson and the Wonder Woman. Oh, yeah, no, I do. I loved Wonder Woman when it came out. It was, I know everybody was getting on it about the dark and gritty overlay. I don't care. I am pleased with that aesthetic, and it just made me so happy to see her not be or are you talking about an animated special perhaps? I love the DC animated features that they do. That I think is always like my core DC universe in my mind. I mean, we all have, the things that we grew up with, and Batman the Animated Series and the Justice League. That is where my DC universe lives in my head. But this has been very fun, and I'm sure that listening back to this, I am going to... This has nothing to do with the superhero Wonder Woman. This is the true story of Wonder Woman. Please watch the trailer. I wonder if I have come across it. I'll, if you have a link up, or if you have a moment, you can throw that in the comments after the chat ends. Otherwise, I'll just go Googling, and I can find it, I'm sure. But that sounds really neat. What was I saying? Yes. Wait, what? Wait, about what? I'm sure listening back to this, I'll be able to learn some things about my mic and about OBS, and just get a better idea of what worked and what didn't, and maybe get some ideas for the future. I do like the idea of doing a midday live stream, just to do I like the what I just have on the preview image there. Let's have a song, a chat, a dramatic reading, perhaps. I put the link, but it doesn't become one. Yeah, hyperlinking is a pain. sometimes in the live chat. I may be able to change the settings somewhere, but I'll worry about that later. And I can definitely look. I can use the power of Google to find it, and I will find and watch the trailer. Thank you for the suggestion. If you have any ideas for future things in the midday Madhat live stream, whether it's things that could be good for a dramatic reading, and that could be anything from play scripts to storybooks. I do have to be a bit careful about the whole public domain thing, but I don't know, as long as I only have, 26 subscribers? I think I can get away with reading selections at the very least. And then also doing ukulele covers, and just things to talk about. I would love to hear your ideas. Oh, of mice and men. Or men of mice. Is that what you mean? My brain turned it into of mice and men. Men of mice. Is that a thing? I'm going to assume that you mean of mice and men. And I did once, long ago. I think I was probably like 11 and pulled it from my parents' like the fancy leather-bound books that, you know, are more for show than they are for reading, and they have like the gilded edges on the pages. But if you think that a selection from that might be a good thing for reading, I can look into that. I don't know if I have a copy anywhere, but I'm sure that I could find something to read from it. Until then, this has been a lovely time. Thanks so much for joining me, Ibrahim. And I hope you have a good night's sleep. It's late now. Go to bed. And have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye now.